have the two of you met? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. We are Twitter mutuals. But hi, I'm Izzy Gibbous. It's nice to meet you.
Hi, Izzy.
Yeah, she's a Futch boyfriend on Twitter. I don't know if you have seen her post.
She's a what?
She's Futch boyfriend on Twitter.
What's that mean?
Good question.
Oh, God. Are you familiar with the femme butch scale for like lesbians? Okay. On one end, you have femme, like feminine, and the other side, you have butch. And you might be familiar with butch lesbians, for example. And then you got like futch that sits square in the center of those two things. Yeah, I don't know. It's stupid.
Learn something every day, I guess.
Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Rock Hard Caucus. This is our 162nd episode of the podcast. It's Iowa's favorite podcast, and you know that because you're probably an Iowan and it's your favorite podcast. A little bit of just a couple of notes here at the top. We are recording this a few days in advance of its release. I'm going to put this one out on Sunday, September 1st. So if the world changes dramatically in the next 3 or 4 days and we say anything that's out of date by the time you're listening to it, just know that it's not our fault. We didn't know. We didn't know that whatever happened was about to happen, and that's why we're not discussing it today. With that said, I'm Justin, and my buddy Evan is not here to co-host with me, so I feel like the two of us have kind of been building up a pretty good rhythm on the podcast the past couple of months. And so it was time to shake things up, disrupt the rhythm, shift into a new era of the podcast. And
bring in the B team.
And so we've got Izzy guest co-hosting. Izzy, is this only your second time actually on the show?
Number 2, yeah. I was going to come on after the Trump assassination attempt, but I think I got scared of I don't know, saying something stupid on the record regarding that. So I chose not to. Yeah. I think my wife filled in, so you enjoyed Maggie?
Yes, we sure did. But welcome back, Izzy. I'm glad to have you here. I thought that you might have some interesting questions and observations for our very important returning guest, Dr. Chris Jones. And this is also Chris's second time on the show. Chris, welcome back to Rock Hard Caucus.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here in your 162nd show. I'm just thinking that's the length of a Major League Baseball season right there, 162 games. And so, I don't know how many home runs you've hit in those 162 games, but I know you're at least going to have 2 after tonight because I'm here for the second time.
Yeah, right. I'm sure that I'll let the listeners judge what our batting average is. It's okay. I'd like to think that it's a good one, but I don't really know baseball numbers.
Yeah.
A good batting average, it's like a decimal, right?
Well, the batting average it's a decimal. And so it's the number of hits you have divided by the number of times you've come to the plate to hit.
Gotcha. Okay.
Whereas the number of home runs is just, an integer, right?
Okay. Right. So that's not a stat that's recorded in the same way as the batting average.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And so, there's a different sort of a math equation there. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's a good example of kind of what I look to Chris Jones for. He's a man of science, a man of mathematics, and I've got a few different topics that I kind of want to, gauge your opinion on. But the first and kind of the most pressing issue this week here in our state is it's really hot outside, and I have been informed that this is partially the fault of corn.
Well, so corn is transpiring water into the atmosphere, right? And so an acre of corn gives off a lot of water in one day. I think I've heard 3,000 gallons. And so when you have millions of acres of corn, a lot of water is going into the atmosphere. But the question is that more water than what would be going into the atmosphere if we still had native vegetative cover here in the form of tall grass prairie and wetlands? And the answer to that is probably not. And so people want to blame it on the humidity on the corn. Well, okay, I guess. Go ahead. But, the other thing I think about a lot, and probably getting off on a tangent already, you don't want me to.
No, I'd love you to go on a tangent, please.
We've got all this impoundment of water in the western U.S., right? And so we basically capture all the snow melt from the Rocky Mountains in reservoirs, and then that's used to irrigate crops. And then, of course, we have evaporation from the reservoirs themselves. And I oftentimes wonder if that doesn't have more to do with the increase in humidity here in the Midwest than the corn does. And so there's my theory for this evening that your listeners can chew on.
Okay, so corn sweat, the effect of corn sweat is maybe overstated.
I think so, yes.
Okay. I was reading this Des Moines Register article about corn sweat by Kate Keeley. She writes, corn sweat is real and contributes to humidity. And then at the end of it, she asks the question, when is the corn going to stop sweating? And fortunately, she says, you don't have to wait for harvest for the corn to stop sweating. Humidity from crops typically cuts back in September.
And that's what we call senescence. When the crop starts to die back and starts to turn brown, that's senescence, and it does stop transpiring water to the atmosphere. And so corn does sweat. It does transpire water to the atmosphere, but so does my tomato plant in the backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to ask if it's specific to corn, like if we had like less monoculture.
Again, I think the scientific evidence shows that the amount of transpiration from corn is not a whole lot different than from the tall grass prairie. So
Okay.
But it has gotten more humid. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, that's just maybe from perhaps other factors.
Like I said, the impoundment of water in the U.S. West. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, it's still sort of like the big agriculture industry that's to blame for some of that, right?
I don't know. You know me, I'm happy to blame them for stuff, but I guess I tread lightly on the corn sweat.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're getting him on the record. Dr. Chris Jones is pro-corn. Corn is not causing the problems that we're currently experiencing. Yeah, Izzy, I don't know if you experienced any, like I know the University of Iowa campus, like their air conditioning system campus-wide, like completely fell apart this week as classes begin. They had a power outage the other night. I don't think we can blame corn for this, but there's clearly some environmental harm happening from someone.
Yeah, like it shouldn't be this hot or this humid. Granted, it's been fine over in the hospital at least, so at least there's like I don't know, no cancer patients are going to that AC. But I'm sorry to hear about y'all in North Hall experiencing some like pretty hellish first few days in class.
So anyway, if you're looking for blame here, blame Bruce Harrell, because he handed over operation of the utilities of the university to Engie, right? Private company, Engie. And so they're operating the power plant and the water treatment plant. And so if you want to blame somebody, blame Bruce Harrell.
Okay, yeah, he's an easy sort of object of scorn for us.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that used to be like less privatized and more in control by the university, if I understand that right.
Yep. It was in complete control of the university. Harrell sold it to Engie, I think, for $3 billion. And look what you get. The hottest day of the year, you got no air conditioning.
Yeah. Also, I want to express my condolences to the students who run KRUI, the radio station at the University of Iowa, which was like attacked by water from the ceiling on Monday, and so they're out of commission for the foreseeable future. And we can probably blame Bruce Harrell for that as well. I mean, the building infrastructure just sabotage the radio station.
And I heard Siemens Center, the engineering building, has no water. So, I mean, it's chaos.
Oh, my God.
Chaos because
like
of Bruce Harrell.
No water at all?
I didn't hear
no
about that.
water at all. That's right.
Yeah, they might be trying to keep that under wraps because I didn't hear about that. I saw a notice kind of pasted up on a door when I was on campus the other day. It said something about NG, and I thought that was like a cute nickname for like the engineering department or something. But NG is like the name of a company.
That's right.
Kind of an embarrassing thing to name your company, I think. It's too cutesy.
I think
NG?
they're based in France. I think it's based in France.
Gotcha.
And so, how things are over there.
different taste in company names. Yeah. Well, that brings us to kind of probably this will be like the main topic of discussion today. The reason that I felt now was the right time to bring Dr. Chris Jones back on Rock Hard Caucus is he's kind of I don't think that Chris necessarily intended this, but he kind of got into a bit of a spat with the Iowa Democratic Party's kind of golden boy, or like somebody associated with their golden boy. And you can read all about this on Chris's Substack, The Swine Republic, in his latest piece, The Losers of Agistan.
So I pride myself on my titles. And so my titles are better than my writing. And so that's a good one, in my opinion, The Losers of Agistan. And so the golden boy, of course, is Rob Sand. And, I've never met Rob Sand, but the guy, his communication director, is C.J. Peterson.
Yeah.
And, I like poking fun at politicians. And I mean, come on, this is America, right? That's what we do.
Right.
And so I poked a little fun at Rob Sand for being at the state fair and schlepping for some big ag interests at the fair. And C.J. Peterson didn't like that too much. And he said I was an unserious person. And so, I'm always looking for inspiration. And so thank you, C.J., for giving me inspiration for that latest Substack piece. So that's where I'm at with it. And, as far as Sand goes, look, he's the only Democrat, right, that holds a statewide office. We have
right.
That's right. He won't let you forget.
Huh?
He will not let you forget.
I know. Yeah. And so because of that, he's great, I guess. And so heaven forbid that we would have the temerity to criticize him. But, my topics generally include agriculture and its effect on water quality and environment here in Iowa. And I mean, here's the thing, and I mean this in all seriousness. Why would anybody in academia or the public sector ever take any risks when it comes to water quality and environment when a guy like Rob Sand is going to go to the state fair and work at the Iowa pork producers exhibit, flipping pork burgers? They're just not. And so this is a serious subject that people in the state should think about. If Rob Sand is that great and he's the greatest Democrat we have and all these other adjectives that we want to assign to him, why would anybody at the University of Iowa or Iowa State take any risks at all on water quality if he's going to go pal around with these big ag people? And that is a serious subject.
No, yeah. It's really frustrating to me that's seen as something completely apolitical to go pal around with I don't even know what you call Iowa pork, but a coalition of pork producers. It's just cute, I guess.
Yeah, the Mass Hog Murderers Association. It's just something that we're all a part of. We all want to support the pork industry, right?
That's
rising tide lifts all. A rising tide of hog shit poured directly into our rivers raises all boats. Lifts all boats. I don't know.
So here's the thing. In 1980, Iowa had 68,000 farmers that were raising hogs. At that time, we had about 13 million hogs. So 68,000 farmers, 13 million hogs.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have 4,000 farmers raising hogs, 25 million hogs. So the consolidation of the industry has wrecked rural Iowa. It's wrecked it. We used to have 4,600 school districts in Iowa. Now we have 330. We have 99 counties. 70 of them are losing population. One of the main drivers of this is consolidation in the hog industry. And so the Iowa pork producers have 4,000 members, have about 4,000 members. That's 0.13% of Iowa's population. And so when Rob Sand goes to cozy up to these people at the state fair, presumably he's courting 0.13% of the population. And this is the portion of the population that's polluted our air, it's polluted our water. And like I said, it's decimated and depopulated rural Iowa. And so what sort of Democrat does this sort of thing is what I would ask.
Right. And if you don't mind me reading your own words back to you, you kind of ask the same question with some different words in The Losers of Agistan. Iowa politicians seem highly drawn to the red apron of IPP, Iowa pork producers. What other group that represents 0.13% of Iowa's population attracts so many shit-eating political grins? And just what is the political calculus here for someone like Sand?
You tell me.
Right. Well, I have a hypothesis that I'm wondering if this maybe makes sense to other people, not just myself. If you look up Rob Sand's top campaign contributors, the first is his wife, Christine Sand, who has contributed $400,391 to Rob Sand's political career. Rob Sand himself has contributed about $161,000 to his own career. So strangely, his wife has paid more than double what he himself has paid. I don't know what kind of relationship that implies, but
yeah. And where's that money coming from anyway? Like, do you?
Well,
okay, please.
Let's look at the rest of this list.
Yeah.
And I have another hypothesis for that question. The next three people on the list are Nixon, Aggie, and Nancy Lauridsen, who have between them contributed like a little more than $200,000. The Lauridsen family is his wife Christine's family. She was born into the Lauridsen family. Lauridsen is her maiden name. Sorry, I almost said middle. Her middle name starts with an L, is what this says. So maybe it is Lauridsen. I don't know. But so I'm, that $400,000 may have come from her wealthy parents. I don't know. But what this shows you is how much of his family's money is pushing his political career. And if you look at where they're getting their money, the Lauridsen family owns and operates the Lauridsen Group, which is, I'm looking at their website now, lauridsengroupinc.com, a collection of 6 independent companies, each dedicated to discovering and producing products to enhance health and nutrition. Let's see, one of these here, we got the Boyer Valley Company. This is just an example of one of these 6 companies. They process and distribute products that serve as essential base ingredients for various industries, including aquaculture, pet food, animal feed, renewable fuels, and organic fertilizer production.
So this is a problem we have in Iowa, that everybody is, I don't want to use the word corrupted, but everybody is, commingled with big ag here. And by the way, out in western Iowa, they call it the Boyer River, not the Boyer River.
Thank you.
So, little known fact there.
Boyer. Okay.
Boyer. But, this is the issue with all of our politicians, or almost all of them, is they're all sort of commingled with agribusiness here, if not the farmers themselves. And so very few, what's the Kevin Bacon thing, the 7 separations or whatever, what do they call that?
6 degrees?
6 degrees of separation.
Bacon?
There's virtually no one in Iowa that has 6 degrees separation from agriculture.
From bacon.
Yeah, from bacon. Good one. So I think we just coined a new thing here tonight. There's no 6 degree separation from bacon, from regular bacon.
Just bacon, the industry. Yeah.
And here's the deal. I mean, how do we get the environmental outcomes that we want when everyone in politics is caught in this web?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no opposition to it either. Like you don't see like the Kamala Harris campaign cozying up to like Exxon, for example. It's kind of like a GOP position. But like behind closed doors, obviously they're going to be like supportive of like petrocapital, but like they're at least not public about it. Whereas here in Iowa, you have both left and right endorsing like just big agriculture, like posing for photos, wearing their T-shirts. It seems just like there's like no opposition to it, despite I feel like there being like a more popular opposition to all the pig shit in the water.
Yeah. It's not about like attracting votes. It's not about winning popular support. Like he's posing for photos with them and sort of, propping up their image or like just being a part of their whole thing in return for, having his entire political career bankrolled by money that comes from that industry.
Look, we want to get down on Republicans at the federal level for, associating with Nazis and racists and whatever. And, they go speak at a thing and we say, oh my God, that U.S. House representative went and spoke at this meeting that's hosted by Nazis or racists or whatever. We're outraged at that, right? But yet we can do the same thing here, where people go and they pander around with the polluters and we just accept it. And, that's the point of my piece is, look, if we want these environmental outcomes that we see as desirable for the state, we need to make this stuff unacceptable.
Yeah. The liberal outrage media, they need to start thinking of polluters in the same category as Nazis. How do we make that happen?
I mean, like literally, like you can look back to genocide of Indigenous Americans, and like continuing to pollute the land that should be theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the record, I'm not equating the Iowa pork producers with Nazis, but I think the fact that their objectives are inconsistent with those of the larger body of Democratic voters is something that the Democratic representatives should consider.
Yeah, for sure. Let me bring up the tweet that actually seems to have upset C.J. Peterson, who is Rob Sand's communications guy. And Chris said he's never met Rob Sand. I have been near Rob Sand a couple times, didn't really talk to him, but C.J. Peterson I have spoken to more than once.
I think I've met CJ too.
Yeah, I think CJ and I are like on somewhat good terms, but I was pretty taken aback by how like angry he seems at you for this. And what Chris tweeted was a photo from his event with it's Jess Piper, who is a Missouri person. An event that they did, which was very well attended, and he contrasted that with a photo from I think Rob Sand and Lanon Bacam sort of like get out the vote canvassing thing, which was not as well attended. And I'm sure that, Chris, you thought it was fun and funny that you brought out more people than they did. But I think that the deeper point, and sorry if I'm putting words in your mouth, I think the deeper point you were making was the issues that you are advocating for draw a lot of people who feel the same way that you do.
Damn straight. That's right. I mean, look, I know that some of this crowd size comparison stuff gets kind of petty, right? And, with Trump complaining and, accusing Kamala of exaggerating and all this other stuff. And so this gets sort of kindergartenish, right? But nonetheless, that's right. The point I'm making is that relative nobodies like me and Jess can pack a room with people that are very eager to see an improvement in the condition here. And in fact, they're agitated. They're motivated, right? They're motivated. Isn't that what Democrats want? Is motivated voters? Isn't that what we want? But CJ seems to take offense to this and, that I'm belittling Rob Sand. Well, look, when my head hits a pillow at night, the last thing on my mind is Rob Sand. I don't care.
I wish I could say the same.
Thank God, too. Like, imagine if Rob Sand was on your mind as you go to bed.
Yeah, guilty.
So I don't know if CJ just had some indigestion that day or what, but I just think it's stupid to try to engage me in this way. And I don't know what he's thinking. It's just stupid. So look, I'm retired, right? Mm-hmm. I'm retired. And way back, there used to be this saying, do not pick a fight with somebody that's got nothing to lose. Right?
It's ridiculous.
You don't need to be a genius to intuitively understand that. And I think CJ evidently doesn't understand that. And maybe politicians think that they're so great that they're beyond sort of criticism. But, I don't know. I think there's something really bothersome about that whole thing. And I think that they could really stand to use a little self-reflection, him and CJ, Sand and CJ.
No, this tweet, on its own is just kind of ridiculous to me because it just reads as very immature. It's weird to be acting as an official spokesperson on an official politician's account to be tweeting. If you block his name, it kind of reads just like it's coming from a liberal mom in the Des Moines suburbs who's mad at you for suggesting that Bernie should have won or something in 2020. it's this. It feels like a resistance lib shit, but dude, you are an official politician. And further, it's kind of goofy that he's upset that you're not playing, you're not being nice, we're all on the same team or something, where it's no, some of us are against the pollution in our state and some of us are welcome to cozy up to it. I don't know, there's real material issues underneath here that we don't just glance past because we all want to vote Democrat and beat the bad guys.
Yeah, there's sort of an incompatible sort of understanding of how to solve problems, if you're motivated by what you see as a massive injustice, in this case, a very small group of people in our state who have a lot of money and own a lot of land are allowed to give the rest of us cancer, basically. And the people who are the victims of that, you and me, we dislike that and think that we should take some kind of action. And unfortunately, that action is not as simple as just voting for Democrats because of what's demonstrated in this interaction and laid out in Chris's article. They're not taking the action that's necessary to solve this problem. So we can't just knock doors for them, elect them, and expect them to solve the problem because they've shown no willingness to take any sort of risk to make this happen.
So here's the thing. If the two people on the ballot for governor 2 years from now are Rob Sand and Kim Reynolds, I will vote for Rob Sand, right? There's no doubt. But, here's the thing. As I said before, do they want voters that are engaged and enthusiastic and have energy and all these other things? I think they do, right? And if you come to my events and you see the people that attend these things that are interested in these environmental issues, they have energy in spades, okay? And look, do you want those people outdoor knocking for Rob Sand? I would think that you would, right? But maybe you've got enough money from the Booyer River hog feed company that you think you don't need volunteers.
Right.
If that's the case, knock yourself out, Rob. Knock yourself out, CJ. And so I think, let's do some strategizing here on how we can get the outcomes that we want, which is, Sand winning and everybody else getting clean water. Mm-hmm. I will say this is a tough issue for Democrats. There is no doubt because they want to, win back some votes in rural Iowa. But here's the mistake that I think Democrats make all the time is they equate rural with farmer. Mm-hmm. Those two things are not the same thing, right? We don't have, but, maybe about 100 farmers per county nowadays. And so
that's consolidated a lot too.
Yeah.
And so the farmers who remain are also very rich typically.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, but Democrats still have this imaginary farmer in overalls and a top hat and a piece of straw in his mouth, and that's their that's their envisioned farmer. And it's that guy does not exist anymore. A farmer now is the biggest asshole in your small town.
So the rugged agrarian, right? We all want to embrace this image of the rugged agrarian, and that's not what it is anymore. Very many of them do have a lot of wealth. No denying that. But Democrats are still fixated on this idea that rural equals farmer. Well, go look at the people working at Casey's in a town, or working, at the beauty shop, or
a meat processing plant,
processing plants, or teachers, or these sorts of people. I mean, there's your constituency. There's the people you need to check the box next to the D. It's not the farmer. The farmers are never going to vote for them because, they're wealthy, right? And so
they have material interests. Yes.
Yeah.
And going back to something you said a few minutes ago, Chris, if Rob Sand is on the ballot for governor, you're going to vote for him. But Chris also belongs to some other demographics that the Democratic Party doesn't necessarily need to work that hard for. You are a retired person in Johnson County. I think they've got that kind of on lock right now.
Locked up.
But some of us who are still unfortunately working for a living, Izzy and I, we might be kind of busy on election day. So you got to give us a little something to motivate us,
Yeah, that's right. Like, I do not think that Rob Sand has the mandate of Johnson County Twitter Maoists at this point. I think that I will lead my constituents against the Rob Sand vote, and instead for the protest, Izzy Kippis vote.
Yeah. We've got cultural power here among certain subclasses.
Yeah, there's dozens of us.
So here's the thing. I mean, what do you guys call yourself? Gen Z? Is that what you are?
I'm a little too old for that.
I'm like 26.
Yeah.
So
I'm like
what
the
is
middle of the millennials?
Okay, well,
I
whatever.
think I very charitably call myself Zillennial. I think that's out of fear of being a millennial. But I think that if you were to ask someone, like, hey, is someone who was born in 97, is that a millennial or Gen Z? I don't think I'd like the answer to that question. I
think that's late millennial, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, whatever the case, these are the people that are leaving the state,
right?
In droves. We've seen the news stories on this, right? These are the people that are leaving the state. In a state like Iowa that does not have a large population of people of color, the base of the Democratic Party is young people. It's young people, and these are the people that are leaving the state.
Right.
And so that's your base. Figure it out, Rob. Your base is moving away, right? And a lot of these young people want things like outdoor amenities. They want clean water. They want parks.
Yeah.
They want these other things. And abortion. Yeah. And so
God.
They want to have their own gender and stuff.
Yeah. Like gay, trans people are leaving the state in droves, and Iowa Democrats just they seem too cowardly to do anything on this issue. Like they'll like weakly oppose it, and sure, there's not much they can do, but like, God, there's like nothing. Like I want some sort of effort from them to like try to make this state livable for our fellow trans Iowans.
Yeah. And they don't take kindly to that type of criticism that you just laid out, Izzy, that you want them to do more.
Right, and right. You're supposed to vote for them because of me, like for me. It's and not like, oh, they're not going to do shit for me.
Yeah, this is why I appreciate Izzy. She gives me permission not to vote.
Think about the queer Iowans, Justin. Think about the queer Iowans.
So it's like I said in the Substack piece, they're not festering boils, right?
Right.
And so they want to say, hey, look, we're not festering boils, so you need to vote for us. Well, come on, man. Let's talk here.
A similar sort of like spat occurred involving another friend of the Caucus, Dexter Merschbrock, formerly of the Cedar Rapids School Board. He was tweeting the other day about this is another sort of like Democratic messaging thing, like something they should be pushing, which would be very popular for the people. Dexter thinks they should push for a universal free school meal program. That's the kids got to eat, right? They can create some distinction between themselves and the Republican Party because, everybody knows Kim Reynolds declined federal money for free food for kids. That looks very bad if you can provide a counter to that, And apparently Sammy Sheets of the Iowa House, he proposed a bill which would Well, I'm reading straight from this. Under Sheets' bill, all kids and families earning incomes up to 185% of the poverty line would get free meals. Izzy seems annoyed by this.
Yeah, I don't know. Just like means testing, obviously unnecessary here. Why create that division? But go on.
And this is a bill that, in the current makeup of the Iowa legislature, they know it's going to be doomed regardless. Republicans aren't going to vote for a Democrat's bill, no matter what it says. So Dexter, he posts a screenshot of this and says, well, this isn't really like a universal free school meal thing. Like, why don't we just push further, like demand more? The opposition's not going to go for it. So create some daylight between yourself and the festering boils. And rather than, engage in a maybe productive conversation, Sammy Sheets replies to our friend Dexter and says, building progressive majorities to get the best solution is the end goal. But of course, some folks would rather be scolds than do the actual work. If only the people of Cedar Rapids could have also voted out Dexter's keyboard.
Some merely just want to critique power rather than wield it. I'm doing politics.
Sammy, you're in office. You're
yeah.
And you're posting like Izzy's suburban liberal mom. Like
again, yeah. I don't know why they get so fucking pissy on Twitter. Like, dog, you have power, wield it.
Exactly. You have power, wield it. That's exactly what you want to say to them. And look, the school lunch thing, I kind of lost my train of thought here, but why do you want to get petty with a guy like Dexter? I mean, I just think you're a really dumb politician to do that.
Yeah, that's unfair.
And, look, we know that you work, okay? We know, Sammy, that you work and that you put the hours in and whatever, but that does not mean that we are supposed to rubber stamp everything that they do. And I mean, that's one of the big criticisms that Democrats have of Republicans, right? That they just sort of mindlessly go along with the policies and it's party over country and all that other stuff.
Right.
Well, that's exactly what this Sheets guy is doing. And I just want to say, grow up, man.
Exactly. No, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's real easy for you to sit here on Twitter and criticize me, but why aren't you just cheerleading me? If you don't ever say a critical word about me and my party, otherwise you're not part of our team.
Yeah,
and
dude,
if you're not part of our team, you're evil.
You represent me. I'm telling you how to represent me.
Right, exactly. And I think Dexter is like literally Sammy Sheets' constituent.
Yeah.
And so their team is like 1/3 of the state, but sure, let's boot out. Let's boot out some of the ones that make up 1/3 of the state. I mean, how dumb is that?
It's time to make this tent a little bit smaller, and you're getting a little too lippy over there.
Just loser shit.
What you said, Chris, about the Republicans sort of putting party over country and just sort of mindlessly towing the party line, that's actually a great segue into what I wanted to ask you about next. You know about Ryan Melton, the Democratic candidate in District 4.
I do.
And the big news this week is that Randy Feenstra, the current member of Congress from that district, his primary opponent from a few months ago, Kevin Virgil, who is a very conservative Republican guy, he has endorsed the Democrat Ryan Melton now. And I'm sure that you've read about this, Chris.
I have. And I have to say the Twitter noise on it is amusing. And obviously Virgil is just a real opportunist here, right? He wants Melton to win so he can run against him in 2 years thinking he can beat him. And so, that's pretty transparent. But then seeing all the Republican establishment come out on Twitter and elsewhere and say Virgil is a New York liberal.
Right. Right. Well, he is like a carpetbagger from my understanding.
Yeah, I know. But
he's not liberal, a liberal, though.
And so I hope Melton wins. If Melton wins and is only there 2 years, I'll be happy about that because I think Melton is the only one of the only, or should I say, the Democrat that knows these water quality issues the best.
Yeah.
And so I like Melton a lot. And in fact, I kind of wonder why he doesn't run for governor. But this Virgil thing is amusing. And I think, Feenstra is, he's doesn't seem like he's a great guy to me. I think he definitely doesn't like to speak. He doesn't want to debate. He doesn't want to really engage his opponents in this election or in previous elections. And so I think it would be great if he lost. But I think some of these comments from establishment Republicans about Virgil have been not only humorous, but almost absurd, right? And so
it seems like they're pretty upset about this. Something that they could have easily ignored, I think, and it would have gotten less attention.
Right. It's like, it's clearly just trying to set himself up, but giving it this attention is kind of letting, I imagine, Democrats kind of run on it. And also just it just looks like they're melting down. I'm reading Kim Reynolds tweeting, sore loser Kevin Virgil just endorsed at Randy Feenstra's radical Democrat opponent who praises Bernie Sanders and believes biological men should play in girls' sports. She seems like a freak here. Randy Feenstra himself seems like a freak here. This guy seems like a nobody who just comes, collects his paycheck, and then goes home and was hoping to just win unopposed essentially. And now,
yes,
God, it's really refreshing to see them all melt down over this. Genuinely.
Yeah. Well, Feenstra, his most notorious prior opponent, Steve King, refers to him as an empty suit, and that's pretty apt, I think. But there was also a story, a hit piece that came out during his primary that we talked about on this show. I don't know how much attention it got outside of that, but Feenstra yelled at an old lady at a campaign event. I don't know if enough people know about this, but yeah, he allegedly yelled at an old lady.
Oh, is there a clip?
No, unfortunately, there's no recording of that. Yeah.
So the other important thing about this whole thing relates to the carbon pipeline.
Yes.
And so Melton is really the only Democrat of any consequence that has opposed the carbon pipeline openly. Virgil also opposed the carbon pipeline. And,
So
the eminent domain, and so does Steve King, and the eminent domain issues associated with it. Whereas Feenstra and the rest of the Republicans and the rest of the Democrats have not opposed it. Now, there has been a little bit of opposition on the Republican side, but not much. So I think you're seeing a window here into this pipeline issue and how these establishment Republicans feel chained to Bruce Rastetter and the Summit Pipeline and so forth to, not get in the way of this. And, that's Virgil's big crime here, actually, I think. And it's not so much the fact that he's telling people to vote for Melton, which I just don't find that to be plausible that a lot of Republicans in that district are going to vote for Melton.
Yeah,
so I think
I
Virgil's real transgression here concerns the pipeline.
Right. And the pipeline needs to exist to prolong the ethanol industry, I guess.
That's right.
That's why they want it so bad. Yeah.
It's absurd to me that both Democrats and Republicans have ceded this issue to the other party, and neither has really taken it up.
It's crazy. It's insane. It's a 70% issue.
Yeah.
Why do Democrats
drive on any fucking rural road and look at the anti-eminent domain signs?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And for the Iowa Democratic Party that loves to do this bipartisan conservative type fucking policies, you think they jump on this, but no, they're bought by ag.
But no, they're flipping pork burgers at the state fair. That's their strategy. That's their strategy to win back rural Iowa.
Yeah,
it's not to oppose something meaningful and that actually affects people's lives.
And they'll just keep losing.
Yeah,
I have actually a recent statement from our member of Congress, Marionette Miller Meeks. This is a statement she released in response to the South Dakota Supreme Court kind of putting a roadblock in the way of the CO2 pipeline. Summit, I think, is who lost in that case. But anyway, Marionette Miller Meeks said, the The carbon capture pipeline is only meant to lower the carbon intensity score of ethanol, which makes it competitive globally. Farmers and property owners need to look at the why the rationale. I think this is a poorly transcribed quote. And then determine if it's in their best interest. Companies that are acquiring easements are looking at how do you make the land whole? How do you ensure farmers that you can grow crops in the near future?
This is your MAGA populist party. Like, doesn't that sound like a winning statement on the pipeline issue?
I mean, I think the reality is that the people whose land is going to be taken for this already understand sort of the situation and have rejected the deal that's being proposed to them. They don't like it. Like, all she's saying there is, like, maybe you're actually too stupid to understand the benefits here. Right.
And so you've got Marinette Miller Meeks putting out a statement like that. That sounds like Hillary Clinton defending the TPP in, like, 2016. It sounds like neoliberal fucking, like, market shit. Like, it's insane.
So the other thing, I will point out here that a story came out a couple days ago that Kim Reynolds is exploring options to expand water treatment plants in rural Iowa. Mm-hmm. And so, this carbon pipeline, it's apparent that they don't know how much water they are going to need to make this thing operate. They're going to need a lot.
Right.
They're going to need a lot of water, but what the number isn't really known. And so, Kim Reynolds then comes out this week and says, we need to figure out ways the taxpayer can help expand water treatment capacity in rural Iowa. Well, guess what, folks? You're going to be paying to expand water treatment plants in rural Iowa so they can supply water to this carbon pipeline. Mm. And, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of good reasons here to oppose this pipeline. It's not just the eminent domain issues or the damage that's going to be incurred upon the soil and these other things. This is, a big macro thing, right? That's going to affect energy and environmental policy in this country for decades. And these guys are they're going to make an insane amount of money on these carbon credits. They really are. It's only going to take them maybe 3 or 4 years to pay off the infrastructure on this pipeline. And so, it's a bad deal. It's bad for the common good. Why Democrats don't try to get in front of this, I don't know. Voters, we should be able to confront elected Democrats on this issue. Mm-hmm. We should be able to, without fearing, sort of pushback from people like Sammy and CJ.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the message that I would put out to anyone listening to this is that's nothing to be afraid of.
Well, I know.
Yeah, they're full of shit. You already know they're full of shit. Let them yell back at you. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, in Chris's case, he gets forced into early retirement. But what's the worst that could happen to all of us?
Well, some people are confrontation averse. I mean, that's just true. So I think we need, when you approach or you confront your elected people, be armed with information and data and put them on the spot and have them rationalize their position. Mm-hmm. That is fair.
And record it. Make sure you record their answer.
Yeah.
If anyone needs
help,
help,
if you're an old lady.
yes. If anyone needs help, sort of clandestinely recording their elected officials when you ambush them with difficult questions, reach out to me. I can absolutely help you with that.
Yes,
and I can help you spread
your local podcaster.
Yes, I can help you spread that recording far and wide. Back to Kevin Virgil for just a minute. I don't think he's doing this in fully good faith, but I do think that he does want to sort of fire a shot across the bow of the Iowa Republicans. He does want to scare them at the very least. And part of the statement that he put out when he sort of maliciously endorsed a Democrat, he was writing about how, Republicans have had more or less total control over this state's government for decades. There's been a couple Democratic governors. They've had majorities in the legislature and at least one house a couple times, but primarily Republicans run this state and have for a long time. And he says, what do we have to show for it today? Iowa's K-12 education system has dropped from number 1 among all 50 states to number 24 today. I'd be shocked if we are even still at number 24 as of this recording. We have the second highest rate of cancer diagnoses in all 50 states, and we're the only state where cancer rates are rising. I'm sure that's not news to anyone here in this room. A couple other of these, number 9 state in the percent of children living below the poverty line, bottom 10% for mental health facilities. There's a link between herbicides and pesticides and our cancer rates. Why are our politicians so eager to sell out our constitutional rights for a CO2 pipeline when a recent poll showed that 78% of Iowans oppose it? So,
God. How do you ignore that number? That's mind-numbing.
I know. So I don't think he's doing this entirely sincerely, but he's laying out a pretty good case for, not allowing the current leadership to continue.
So I will say those are nice liberal arguments, all of them, especially the public education one. Mm-hmm. We've gone from 1st to 24th or whatever it is. And the other thing about this, too, is a lot of this stuff about private property rights is, that's sort of enshrined in Republican dogma, right? Mm-hmm. That if you own a piece of property, by God, you can do whatever you want on there. And the fact that these property owners are being forced to accommodate the pipeline thing is really quite contradicts Republican Party dogma here. But again, where's the Democratic Party to call them on this? AWOL, right? AWOL.
And usually they love calling out hypocrisy.
Yeah. Who doesn't? Right.
Right.
That's my stock and trade. So,
well, we've been talking for almost an hour now. I never did read the actual words that C.J. Peterson directed at our friend Chris Jones, but I think now that you've listened to Dr. Jones speak for a while on all these topics, let's hear what C.J. had to say. I don't want anyone to be confused and think you should be taken seriously. But just in case anyone does, folks who want change in Iowa boost candidates who will help make it. Like the folks
show
gathered...
me
one. Yeah, scoreboard. Didn't you lose, dude? Like he was running. He was running for office, right? Like he lost.
CJ has lost a race. It was a very difficult district for him to have won.
Sure.
But, not a good track record. He was also involved with OPAC, and we know how that went. But yeah, what really rubbed me the wrong way there was just to say that nobody should read the things that Chris Jones writes and take him seriously. Like, who are you to say this? You're like the foremost outspoken person in the state with the knowledge to really criticize the agriculture industry.
So again, I don't know what's going through the guy's mind or going through his head. And look, if you think I worry about a guy like CJ taking this seriously for even 1 second, I don't. And I don't care. Look, I just want some clean water to fish in. I couldn't give a flying fuck about whether CJ takes me seriously or not. Mm-hmm. But, the issue we have here is that, the truth of the matter is I am sort of a spokesman now for these environmental issues in Iowa. There's no denying that. And for him to say this, what it says to all Iowans interested in these issues is, look, we don't care. Yeah. It's not a priority for us. And so that's where, just the stupidity of it is really sort of mind-boggling.
Yeah, it says to me, pipe down, get in line, which is...
Yeah, exactly. Pipe down, get in line. That's exactly right. And look, I've paid a few dues myself here, but so
I think they're just really feeling themselves after they pulled off this sort of the switcheroo with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and it's just really irritating to them that there are some people who still have criticisms. Namely, here in Iowa, it's the big ag thing. nationally, it's the Palestine thing. That's what I took away from the DNC is if you have a bad word to say about our party, shut the fuck up and go away.
Yeah.
Look, we ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, right? And so we can be happy about what appear to be promising prospects for the national ticket. Mm-hmm. But, the truth of the matter is, I just looked it up beforehand. We have 16 out of 50 Senate seats in Iowa, in the Iowa legislature. We have 36 out of 100 House seats. We haven't had the governor's office for 12 years. We haven't had a U.S. senator for 10 years. All 4 congressional districts are occupied by Republican incumbents. Look, if you think you're so great, show me some data. I'm a data person, right? And so if you think you're great and you think you know it all, well, maybe you ought to show me some data that, looks different than what I just read there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy to be this entitled when, your team keeps losing, guys. We keep losing our rights because you guys keep losing elections. And they'll go to the DNC and play Celebration and regurgitate the A&F line. I forget the line, but one of you might remember.
Feed and fuel America.
Yes, explicitly, straight up.
Straight up from the party chairman.
Right.
Yes. I did read on last week's episode of this podcast some very nice quotes from Rita Hart and Representative Adam Zabner. And they're both very optimistic about the down ballot effects of Kamala Harris here in Iowa. And I have my doubts. I don't see how that's going to win them any competitive seats. I don't know. I don't see how that's going to change things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but maybe if they take a note from Ryan Melton and see the sort of bipartisan support and the way the GOP melts down, if you just talk about the elephant in the room, maybe we can win some of those down ballot races. Because I think there's a case to be made for optimism. I think that Iowans change, and Kamala is a more popular at least politician.
Certainly,
but,
yeah.
Let's see some action.
Yeah, this may be a shock to them, but they probably could learn something from perennial loser Ryan Melton.
Yeah.
So here Melton's like me, right? He had nothing to lose. And so he was able to take these positions, especially on the pipeline, that are sort of counter to the establishment positions. And so, I've talked to him several times. I wish him the best. If success does come his way, I sure hope that he maintains this courage that he's had.
Yeah.
As far as this down ballot effect of Kamala, well, what do I know? I don't know anything. But I think it's apparent that the Democrats do have a shot at least 2 of the congressional seats.
Yeah, they're competitive, I think. Yeah,
they're competitive. And so the other thing about this Virgil thing, endorsing Melton, from my perspective, it means that Republicans are probably going to have to spend some money on all 4 of these congressional races.
I think I saw a headline that they already are dumping more money into this.
Yeah.
So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that gives them some gas.
Well, as we wrap things up here, I did want to ask you, Chris, while I've got you, are there any plans to bring back the We All Want Clean Water podcast?
So there are no plans. I'm not saying it's impossible that it would happen, but there's no plans. That does get discussed once in a while.
Cool. If you need any assistance with, production, I'm always here.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
But before we let you go, I want to make sure people check out Chris Jones's Substack, The Swine Republic, which you can find at riverraccoon.substack.com. And what else do you have going on, Chris? Yeah, you got the book, too, of course.
I published my book, The Swine Republic, and the book was one of 56 books picked in the United States by the Library of Congress for the National Book Festival, which was held last week.
Yeah,
and
nice.
So my book was Iowa's representative at the National Book Festival. And so I will say now it's been out for over a year, and I was at an event a couple weeks ago, and somebody brought up a book for me to sign, and I opened it up, and on the inside it said "Property of the Iowa City Public Library." And this was up in Okoboji. So evidently the Iowa City Public Library is starting to unload some of their copies.
Yeah, steal this book.
And so if you don't want to shell out the money for it, keep your eyes open for the little libraries, and maybe you'll find it, get lucky and find it. And so it's not terrible. So I'll just say that.
I enjoyed it. I read the whole thing, and I'm not the type to like really absorb and retain, scientific facts, but I could still follow most of the book, and I think I took the right message from it. Mm-hmm. The message being that farmers are evil. That's right.
Right.
No, the message is they're all named Harold.
Yeah, I'm reading it currently and really enjoying it. So thank you for putting that out there. It seems like a really important resource, and I'm excited to finish it.
Yeah, good.
Well, everybody, if you have any thoughts on the things that you heard on today's podcast, you can be part of the podcast if you give us a call at 319-849-8733. Leave us a message, and maybe we'll play it on the show, and maybe we'll make fun of you for your opinions. But you can make fun of our opinions too. It's a back and forth. We also have a mailing address, P.O. Box 5336, Coralville, Iowa 52241. That's the zip code. That's how you say zip codes. If you got any spare copies of the Swine Republic, send them over to me. I'll help with distribution of that. A couple of events to plug. I will be playing a noise set at a mud wrestling competition on September 11th, my birthday, at Paradise. I didn't plan this event. I don't know what all's going to happen. Are you coming, Izzy?
Oh, definitely. Okay. Paradise is a DIY venue. Message someone for a address and come enjoy it. Should be fun.
Yes. If you like this podcast and you have money to spare, go to patreon.com/rockhardcaucus and get more of the podcast and extend its longevity with your dollars. If you need help accessing abortion, because that has been made a lot more difficult in our state, you can go to autonomyiowacity.org and/or iowaabortionaccessfund.org. And quick reminder to our Des Moines listeners, their next city council meeting is September 16th, and they are planning to do the third reading of their stupid and evil anti-homeless ordinance. So if you have not yet contacted your representatives on the city council, you should do that. And you should also try to get there in person and, see what kind of police presence they bring out to that one. I'm sure it'll be a wild night.
Yeah, show up, please.
Yes. All right, Izzy, do we have anything else we need to plug, or are we good?
That is all I got.
Cool.
Thank you, Chris.
I want to let you pick the closing music, though.
Oh, God. Don't put me on the spot. There's a Show Me the Body is the name of the band. Just put out a record that I like a bit. I think the lead single was called It Burns, and I think that's a lot of fun. So I'd say go for that.
Okay, cool. That's what we're going to hear. Thank you, Izzy, for the suggestion. And Chris, thanks again for giving us
thanks for having me.
An hour plus of your time. Always a good pleasure for us to talk to you.
Very good. Good luck with your endeavors. So
you too.
All right. Goodbye.
See ya.
Bye, Chris.